We are live.
We're live.
Nice.
Welcome to Live at the Hive, episode 112, 2020, first episode,
Yep.
redone. For various reasons. And I'm just going to blame producer Matt.
You
Just
were
'cause
saying
it's-
it's off to a rough start for the production on the 2020.
Yeah, well, my glasses fell apart last episode too, but I got my glasses fixed,
Yep.
so
Oh, nice.
we're good on
the
that one.
camera's fully charged now.
The
And
cameras,
we have the cable for it now,
yes.
so we're good.
Nothing can stop us now,
No,
is
no,
what I'm
nothing
saying.
can stop us here.
So welcome to Live at the Hive, episode 112, everybody. I'm Dan Nadelko,
I am Mate.
Producer Matt.
and let's just roll right into it.
Yeah,
All right, no more pregnant pauses. So, I think one of the things that we there we go. There we go.
You okay?
Yeah, I got this the camera swing arms in front of my face, and I just want to fix it. I gotta fix it. So this video will be going live onto LinkedIn, and we're going to be talking today about two networks that are probably underrated and underused.
Yeah.
One probably not as much as the other, but talking about LinkedIn, that's going to be the first one.
Yep.
And then we're going to roll into a platform that Mate's had been diving into,
Yes.
a
Pinterest.
little site called Pinterest. And what we're going to talk about is Miguel saying
cursed.
cursed podcast. Yeah, they happen. They've happened from time to time. But you know what? It's like when a bird poops on you. It's good luck.
You know, it's like a shtick now too, so you got to keep the shtick alive.
Well, don't forget, we need outtakes.
Yeah, that is
Right?
true.
We
We
have
rely
to
on
go
those.
back even and get the past outtakes as well.
We do it on purpose, guys. Don't worry. It's
all
for the bloopers. It's for
It's
the
like
bloopers.
it's like Howard Stern. It's all this is all scripted. We know what's going to happen at every step along the way. We are professionals. Thank you very much. So one of the things, and if you follow Gary V, for example, he's been talking a lot about this. And the first thing, before we actually dive into any of the actual networks, I think what it is to kind of address one thing about how all of these platforms work. And
Yeah.
these are all marketplaces, okay? And so Google, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, they fundamentally are all about commodity marketplaces. People post content, people consume content, how the algorithm goes through and pushes that content out to various networks and audiences on that network is how much engagement and visibility you can get, right? So when we talk about these marketplaces, and that's truly what they are, because there's two sides to a marketplace. You're posting content, someone's consuming content, you've got a network in the middle of those two that determines, and an algorithm that determines how your content gets in front of other people via your network or via other things like their interests, via things like hashtags at a simple level, right? So bear with me here, because this is important to explain. Google, in and of itself, is a highly matured marketplace.
Yeah.
Google Ads is driving everything about visibility. If you look at Google search, organic search, even with Google's own results, Google supplants ads to their own organic content right now, right? And so when a marketplace is mature, and when it matures, a whole bunch of things happen at the same time. The algorithm becomes perfected and tweaked and improved, right? Pay to play is really where it's at. Example, Google search, even for Google's own knowledge engine, ads come first, right? Then what happens is there's saturation because there's lots of advertisers on there. Then prices go up, inventory goes down. As a marketer or an individual looking to build a personal brand or whatever brand you're trying to build, that then becomes pay to play. And the opportunity goes from up here to down here, right? So if we look at tiers of marketplaces and the attention being the commodity, and that's also important because that's what you're buying on these networks. That's what you're paying for from Google, right? Now, you get a highly matured marketplace like Google Ads, still can be effective, but you're not going to get that massive organic reach that you used to get.
Nope.
SEO is exactly a great example of that.
Exactly.
Right? 10 years ago, you had great SEO. You would drive a ton of traffic into your website. Now you have what are called zero-click searches, where Google is taking information and putting it directly onto the search results page. So nobody needs to click anymore. They just need to look at the screen. And so these highly commoditized and highly matured, or relatively highly matured marketplaces, like 10 years ago on Google Ads, you could buy ads for a very low price and a high return. 15 years ago, it was ridiculous what you could do. Now, that's Google. Facebook is what I would call like an intermediately mature network.
It's almost there,
It's their ads algorithm and how they do. They're making a lot of changes over time. Now, a lot of you probably would remember this as well, that even a few years ago, if you had a business page, and this is when the media creator companies, BuzzFeeds of the world, Cheddar, all those folks, were able to go Viral Nova, right? And the algorithm allowed them to get out there. And then the algorithm got tweaked. And then those media companies, because they doubled down and went all in, went away. Right?
I think just recently, I think there was an article this week that said College Humor, actually, they're a 5-person team now, and they had a whole bunch beforehand.
That's right. And just wanted to do a shout out to April and Jessica.
Hey
Jessica
guys.
Cook is back.
Happy
Top
Friday.
fan.
Oh, nice.
We got 12 viewers, so please don't be shy. Look at these numbers exploding on us. Okay, so let's just go back. Let's just go back to talking about how these commoditized marketplaces have you have an opportunity for a window, then that opportunity goes away. It declines. It goes like this, right? On Facebook, the exact same thing happened. 3 years ago, ad prices on Facebook were ridiculously much lower, and there was a ton more inventory available. Today, it's getting way more competitive. It's still a bargain compared to Google at about 40 to 50% the cost, right? But that's going to go away. The companies will mature their marketplace to maximize inventory, maximize their profit. We've got a number of different visuals. I think they were from last week. I'm not 100% sure, but we got to go back. You've never seen a decline in a cost per click on any platform in the history of their existence. Okay? They control the market. So we're talking about Facebook now. And again, your organic opportunities diminish as the network becomes more refined and as more people are posting on the network, and then it becomes more competitive. Now, you look at something like LinkedIn, you'd say, well, LinkedIn's been around for 10 years, really only 18 months with their new algorithm and their new tools. They're in a state right now of opportunity for organic reach from an individual just posting content on a regular basis. That's also why we see, if you do advertising on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a bit of a walled garden. They have a smaller inventory, so their prices are more expensive, right? So they do come in at a premium. Now, we're going to circle back to everything that we're talking about here in this, how to leverage these opportunities on LinkedIn for either your business, or if you're a B2B marketer, if you're a salesperson, or if you're just looking to build your personal brand. Right? But I think it's an important thing to talk about is that it's a cat and mouse game that has a limited lifespan, and it's going to move on, and it's going to happen on the next platform. Right? And you can see the 3 examples we used there are pretty indicative of what's happened in the past.
Absolutely.
Right? And LinkedIn will have that happen. But while they do it, they also do it because they want content on the channel to get people's engagement. And they want, because again, it's a network. It's a creator and a consumer network fundamentally at the heart of it. And in order to be effective, they need scale and volume and engagement. So they open up the floodgates a little bit more to give you these huge opportunities. As a marketer, you've got those opportunities for that limited window, and then be ready to move your model into the matured model, right? So right now, we might not have to spend as much on budget, but we know, in a year, right? As a marketer, and you've probably seen this if you've ever done Facebook marketing over the last couple of years, and you managed a business page, and trying to explain to your peers why my organic reach is going through the floor. Well, it's because of the platform, right? It's not because of it might be what you're doing. I'm not saying that it isn't, but that could entirely be the case. But yeah, that's kind of an important thing to know. TikTok, as an example, right now, huge amounts of opportunity for zero organic reach.
Oh yeah, TikTok.
Right?
Yeah.
Vine created dozens, if not hundreds, of YouTube stars.
Yeah, Logan Paul.
It's time. Logan Paul, Jake Paul. I mean, and
Yeah,
even
but now they're starting to flood. They're starting to flood TikTok.
Yeah.
And people aren't really happy about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're not really happy.
But this is how these things. This is how these all go, and this is what happens, and it's repeated over and over.
Yeah.
And it's actually not just social that's done it. It's happened in other mediums.
For sure.
Like, just as an example, when TV came along, everybody in radio thought TV was a stupid joke, and they didn't think it was going to last that long. But the reality, I know it sounds stupid now, but it was the case. Radio was so dominant at the time in the 30s and 40s.
Yep.
And then what ended up happening, though, interestingly enough, is radio stars did not translate into television stars, and you had and the networks also didn't transmit from one to another. You had the birth of ABC, CBS, NBC, and the birth of a whole generation of new stars that never existed before. It's pretty much exactly what you're seeing right now with Jake Paul, a Logan Paul, a PewDiePie, and YouTube and Google and everything else, right? So, anyways, that's enough on the sociology of media and the history of media lesson. But so we're going to focus on LinkedIn and talk a little bit about that. And it's because of this opportunity right now that we're talking about this and the importance of it. So, Matt, I know that you had a couple of things you wanted to dive into here.
Yeah, so we're going to just kind of dive in here on some of the best practices that some of the bees at the Hive have been implementing on their LinkedIn content. And we're going to also show you as we go down the list of kind of examples of what people are doing that maybe might not be the best idea at the moment, especially with the given algorithm. So just kind of dive in here. And we have some articles for later on. But right now it's just kind of like a more casual kind of carryover conversation. So the first one I kind of wanted to talk about was to really start creating your content directly on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. That's my new social network. Join.
So basically, you're going to want to create blog articles on LinkedIn, your business page. Instead of kind of sharing outsourced links or maybe a link to your own personal blog as well, right? So once LinkedIn kind of sees that you've posted this article, it will favorite in the algorithm and start pushing it out to your network. Yep.
I think this is a general rule for pretty much all social networks.
Yep.
You see wars that happen between Twitter, LinkedIn, Google and Facebook in terms of shareability and the visibility. So, for example, on YouTube, when you post a YouTube link into LinkedIn, you get a smaller preview that's horizontal, split in half. Your LinkedIn video takes and consumes the entire area. You get more real estate. Yep. And by and large, I did a test. Remember when I did that test? I think it was last year.
Yep.
At one point, and all I was doing was writing maximum copy LinkedIn posts. Yep. Just the post, not an article, just to be clear, in an actual post. But I was using as much of the max copy as was allowed.
Yeah.
And they performed about 10 to 15 times more effectively than the shorter posts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of creating more content on your page as well like that kind of just increases and adding more kind of rich media content to your page, so that kind of increases the odds that people can kind of stay on your page or you can stay on your contacts radar as well, right?
Yep.
And that kind of feeds into the next point, Dan, which you kind of talked about beforehand. Yvonne, that's a very snippy comment that you put in the chat. But basically to write more in your posts. So like Dan said, actually using long form posts, LinkedIn has a maximum of 1,300 characters that you can use, and using all of those characters is going to be a great way to provide people with a little bit more value in your posts as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, when you're writing in your posts, doesn't mean you have to make every single post. Like you don't want to get annoying, right?
Yeah.
Like provide value. I get another important point just about this is social networks are really nothing. They don't create content. The people on them put the content. They're empty tubes, basically.
Yeah.
You put stuff in and stuff comes out. But these companies are not media companies. They don't create anything at all, actually.
For sure.
A good example is if you go look at the YouTube creators channel, which is from Team YouTube themselves.
Yep.
Actually, the quality of the videos is really pretty bad. They're
It's
not
true,
very
yeah.
good. It's true.
Yep.
I don't know if that's by design or not, but the reality is that none of these networks serve any function except for disseminating your message into that platform.
Yeah,
Of course.
absolutely.
Right. So your ability to succeed or fail really depends on the content that you're putting out. And if you're not doing a variety of content and consistent content, but also is it saying anything?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And, or is it blending into other people's content that they're putting out too? I mean, you're not going to be the only one posting content out on LinkedIn. And to be honest, a lot of people are going to be taking advantage of the organic algorithm that they have right now, right?
Yep.
So how are you going to differentiate your content from another person's content? So another example I have in here is kind of being counterintuitive with your content strategy, right? If you are posting maybe a link to an outsourced article, maybe remove the link preview from your article and give a little bit more context so that people can kind of learn a little bit more, right? Everyone's going to be having link previews and things like that. It just kind of makes yours stand out a little bit differently, right? Maybe make it look a little bit more organic rather than kind of planned out. Right?
Yeah. A couple of content creation tips for LinkedIn. I actually had one of our partners actually ask the other day on the sales side. He said, how do you build trust?
Yeah.
He asked me that. I was like, really? It's an interesting question. You know what? It's a great question for someone to ask, though.
Yeah.
Like, how do you build trust on social networks? Like, how the hell do I do it? I don't know how to do it. And my answer was, you give people something that's valuable to them without the expectation of a return.
Exactly.
That builds trust.
Yep.
So we do this a lot when we're talking to our clients and to our partners. And prospects. When we're talking to prospects, sometimes we go through these longer cycles with people just answering a whole ton of their questions, helping them understand how they should. And in a sense, sometimes it gets a little crazy, but in a sense, you're almost helping them define their strategy, right?
Yeah.
You obviously don't go down that road forever necessarily, but you certainly do provide that value. If you think about your social content that way, then it will make value. Like it'll provide value. So if you're a salesperson, I hope you're selling something that's valuable to somebody. So help those people, answer their questions. Like, so especially for LinkedIn, one of the great things, Ricky Gonzalez, Ricky's going to, yes.
Ricky, I'm jealous right now, man.
I'm coming down to Punta Arenas to the ranch. Jessica Cook. Dan counseling clients with Honeypot Marketing since 2002. Yes, sometimes it's a couch session, and that's important. That's called.
Hey, we got the coaches, man.
That's called building a relationship, right? Yeah. So, what are some of the pieces and types of content that you can provide on LinkedIn? Answer complicated questions for people.
Yeah.
And you should know what those are. Provide stats, value, and experience. Here's how I do something, and give it away. Trust me, it's going to work. People do react to that.
Absolutely.
If you're in those correct networks, right? And also, Matt made that point. We've done this before with our clients and recommended it. Is use LinkedIn articles. They're only available on personal accounts. Like your company can't create a LinkedIn article, but LinkedIn articles get preferential treatment in the LinkedIn network. They're a walled garden. They want to keep it there. But in your industry, if you're connected with people in your industry on LinkedIn, or if you want to become perceived as a thought leader or an expert, LinkedIn articles are a fantastic way to go. Even if you're non-technical and you don't have a blog, you don't need it.
No.
You don't need to go. I mean, you could create a Medium blog, but you could do all of your blogging
solely on LinkedIn.
Solely on LinkedIn and be hugely effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's another way. I think we were talking before we went live, Mateon. Using LinkedIn articles is another great way to kind of build your personal brand, but at the same time, also kind of
100%.
feeding content for your company as well, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. With the even ties in with like the other platform we're talking about, Pinterest as well. Just posting content that people can use,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be organic. It can be a little more, I don't want to
Creative and
say,
stuff
yeah,
too.
like a little more creative as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
But just making sure they have that, and then building that trust as well,
Mm-hmm.
answering their questions.
Interact.
And then after you build that trust with the client,
Yeah.
even if it's near the beginning, when you start giving them things
Mm-hmm.
with and no expect of return, but then down the road when you build that trust, you
Yeah.
can start, asking.
Yeah. And this is where on social, like, so for example, like on Pinterest, just
Mhm.
as an example,
Yeah.
to kind of dive into that,
Mm-hmm.
if you are a creative professional or a photographer, put your stuff up on LinkedIn,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? It's a visual medium, much like Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
right?
100%.
Take advantage of that. One of our sites, Mama Knows, that site's got to be 10 years old now. We've got a number of pins. I know our biggest pin has been repinned over 220,000 times.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, it lives on Pinterest, and literally like twice a year we get a big traffic spike when someone's repinned it, and it goes back into the feed, and it starts popping up again. But that's very much evergreen type content that can continue to grow and grow and grow. But one of the things I think that's important with Pinterest, for example, is don't overprotect. Like don't try to protect your content too much. Get it out there. Create lots of boards. If you're a photographer and you've got thousands of photos and images, if you're an interior designer, you've got thousands of images. I mean, put it out there.
Oh yeah, a great example. Like one of the clients that we have now, where they sell faucets, and how we go about. You can't just like hard sell faucets on Pinterest, right? You can't. Here's this. There's different ways in life that a faucet interacts with you. So like washing your dog, washing your kid.
Mm-hmm.
It can even be cooking, like different aspects where you can draw content from and post boards.
Yeah.
Post boards,
Well,
design,
it's
anything like that.
Yeah, and it's the context. Like I think that we've talked about this a lot, and we'll circle back to LinkedIn in a second, and then come back to Pinterest specifically. Starting with the why of something. No, I don't care about a shower head or a faucet or a device necessarily. It's what it does for me and what I get out of it. The why, right? So why do I like having a really nice shower head that has a waterfall feature on it? Because I have a stressed out life,
Yeah.
right?
I need that waterfall.
I
man.
need that waterfall. A couple of things, like that self-care, and then that means a lot to somebody. Then there's meaning to it. It's not just a piece of metal with water going through
100%.
it, right?
You can post all you want about something like a fancy device or fancy
Yeah.
shower head, whatever. It doesn't have to be specific.
For sure.
But if there's no why or context or any relation to the people that are viewing it to their life, they're not gonna.
Yeah.
They're not gonna repin your content.
Do you think? Sorry, I know this is just like a highly personal thing. This is Matei's iPhone 11.
You can't see it.
Pro,
I'm covering it right now.
right? Well, one of the craziest things about the entire mobile market is everybody cares about the form factor and the sleekness and the bezels, and then we cover them up. That's just one thing. Anyways, is this worth $1,359?
I'll say yeah.
I think I say yes.
It is only because you say it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is the only
Your
reason.
perceived
That
value.
phone probably cost a couple $100 to make, to be honest
Oh,
with you.
yeah. If that.
Right?
also
Some would
buying the
argue
brand.
this Samsung or Pixel phones come in at 60% of the cost, and people that are invested in those platforms believe that they are superior to that platform. None of this has to do with the hardware specs or anything about that phone.
It's the brand.
It's the brand and what the brand means to you.
Yeah.
There's a certain class of people, for example, that if they don't see the blue iMessage and they see the green text message
Makes them puke.
come in on their phone, there's a whole thing about
that green bubble off my
I know
screen.
people like that. They'll
I
see
do.
the green pop up and they're like, ew.
Oh, you're not on iMessage. So there's that. But again, this is all about, this is about brand and engagement and providing value and then connecting with those people, right?
Sure.
So always keeping that in mind. So specifically on LinkedIn, some of the takeaways here, because we've kind of gone deep into LinkedIn. create content and use the tools of the platform to maximum effect. That goes for any social network. So one example, for example, on Facebook, should be using groups, using your events, cross-linking your content from your business pages into your groups, inviting your page fans into groups as a group fan to increase that engagement. LinkedIn, for example, there's a bunch of features on LinkedIn, and I know this because I have an all-star account. That's just how they rate how much of the tools you're using. There's a portfolio. There's a project section. There's additional galleries and carousels of different types of work that you can put up on your profile that will increase the prominence of that profile. LinkedIn articles, obviously LinkedIn posting, LinkedIn videos, right? LinkedIn groups and group membership. And then also using, if you've got the in your budget, like if you're in sales and you're in B2B and you don't have Sales Navigator, you need to get Sales Navigator and start to follow up with your clients and prospects and interact with them using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It sounds, I know people may say it sounds trivial, but you've got this as a point. It is hashtags and tagging people and adding them directly. With using those features, and I think one of the biggest things you can do that tends to have an impact is you can either do one of two things. You can show negativity or you can show positivity, right? Aligning with the successes of others and celebrating those other successes is a great way to give yourself visibility, right? Aligning with a charity to promote that charity is a fantastic way to increase your reach, right? Certainly even throwing out compliments and then going in and commenting on other people's
comments on that.
And try not to, maybe don't try to use the pre-formatted ones so much.
No, try and actually engage.
Yeah.
There's like, I mean, we all know how to create content. We all know how to add hashtags and tag people, comment on posts, but I think it's doing it correctly and in a way that's suitable on LinkedIn is very, very important because it's going to be a different type of engagement than Facebook. It's going to be totally different content than Facebook or Instagram. No memes or anything like that. Just strictly really good content, really informative. That helps other people within your network for sure.
Yeah. And I think you want to be careful. I mean, LinkedIn is a different type of content platform. I think you don't necessarily have to be completely buttoned up there.
No.
But I think it's definitely not like Snapchat or Instagram. The other thing too is there are stories on LinkedIn, and they also have their various other reactions, interesting things that you can do with live events, a day in the office, some of those things, posting short, quick LinkedIn videos, which is something I've got on my slate to do for this year as well, just on LinkedIn specifically. And I think that there's definitely lots of room to grow in that direction.
Awesome.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Pinterest, Matej.
Yes.
So what are a few of the strategies? You've been working on this in the new year. So what are some of the key findings and takeaways that you've got?
Key findings and takeaways that we found with Pinterest is people, when they're going into this platform, 9 times out of 10, they know exactly what they're looking for
Right.
when they go and search into it. So I learned very quickly that using specificity, if I said that right?
You
I think
did.
I said that correctly. Using that when making your boards, pinning your content, take into account the keywords as well that you're attaching to these boards, these pins that you're pinning. Because when people go in, say, for example, they're looking to remodel their bathroom.
Right.
And they're looking for a specific look, say like matte black or like a dark minimalistic look. Using those keywords when making those boards, it will increase people engaging with those boards. And it'll also, when they pop up as well, those keywords again will help it push your content to the top of the list when they're searching. But yeah, I learned that very quickly because at first I started making boards, making pins, but you realize that people already know what they want going into this platform.
It's that minor details.
Yeah. Those minor details you have to take care of that will make your content worthwhile for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I got a couple of other tips for you, and that's absolutely true. It is a discovery engine. People do typically search, and they follow the boards of things that they're interested in. One of your major goals should be having your pin repinned to other boards. So that kind of encouragement. And one strategy and more of a tactic that you can do is on your Pinterest profile. Actually, I've done it completely off of others. We have some brands that don't have a Pinterest account, but we have shared boards with their content on it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
What you can do is create a few shared boards and then invite people that you've either connected with or influencers in your space to participate in your shared board. And the reason is because then you assume their network in your board. So what you could do is if you had 10 designers or you had 10 photographers, create a board of a specific type that you know they would be interested in participating in. That board also becomes their board. So you're sharing the metrics of it. Then let other people do your content creation for you and with you. Right? So leveraging those shared boards is a fantastic way. And it gives your Pinterest profile a whole lot more life and dynamism to it. Right? The other thing that you can do as well is interacting with those influencers. I'm looking at my own personal Pinterest, and I get, in a what is it? That's 28 days. I had 4,880 impressions on my content, and I haven't posted on there in a while.
Yeah,
It's
good.
a little embarrassing to say, but it's true. But see, that content lives, right? And it compounds over time. So it's an important thing to kind of take into account.
And that was another thing that you brought up with the influencers. Tagging key influencers in your content, because then that'll get pushed to their followers and who is repinning their content as well. And then your content just keeps on going down the line. It's like a trickle effect as well. And that'll drive people to your content as well.
Yeah. One of the other things that you can do, especially if you've got, if you're trying to move people through to your site, is ensure that you have the rich pins set up on your website. And most websites should accommodate this, no problem, but you want to make sure. And then post from your site to Pinterest, not just uploading directly to Pinterest, because then you'll get the link from Pinterest. And Pinterest isn't as much of a walled garden. It is a big driver of traffic out of Pinterest and into other sites. Even if that other site maybe isn't your website, it could also be from different social profiles and different things that you've got going on there. Cool. All right, everybody. Well, it's 5:02, and that was our LinkedIn
We got everything in there,
Pinterest Palooza.
It's pretty good.
Maybe producer Matt, you can throw some of those reference links that we've got in the notes into the live chat.
5 articles here for you guys. A couple of them are just kind of talking about the underrated power of LinkedIn, how to grow your own personal LinkedIn account in 2020, some kind of things to avoid, and then just some stats on how fast LinkedIn is growing as a platform right now with a new algorithm within the past 18 months, like Dan explained.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it for episode 112. Next week's a busy week.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are
Driving all over
everywhere.
Ontario next week.
Everyone's coming. Everyone's
grand
still
tour.
coming out of the holiday brain as well.
What's that?
Everyone's still coming out of the holiday. What is that?
The
What is
fog.
that word?
The fog
yes,
of the holiday.
The fog. Yes.
I was out of it on Monday. I was so happy on Monday morning.
I'm
out. I was out of that fog like halfway through the holidays. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Let's go. Yeah.
Let's go. I don't want to sit around here anymore. I gotta go.
You
I gotta
came
go.
in one day. You're like,
Oh,
I'm ready
man.
to go, guys.
Oh
Let's
man,
go.
yeah.
Alrighty.
All right, guys. Well, have a great weekend, and we will see you next Monday for a second full 5-day week in a row of 2020. Matei looks so happy. Matei looks like he's gonna collapse.
We'll see.
How's your car doing, Matei?
Oh, I don't want to talk about it.
I told you, just get a new car, man.
We'll see. We'll see. If it's gonna be a new car, I'll finally just get my dream car I've always wanted.
Maybe we'll
A
put a
Tesla.
poll
He's
on.
ordering a
Should
Tesla
Matei-
truck.
Oh my
all right?
god.
Maybe we should put a poll on Facebook. Should Matei buy a new car or get his old car fixed?
That would be a
Oh
good
my
poll.
That would be a good poll.
We should do it. Stacy, we're doing it.
Okay.
All right, guys.
See you
Have a
guys.
great weekend. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.